Okay. Call the April 15th, 2025 regular meeting of the school board to order. We have a quorum. Everybody could stand and say pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have agenda review, and it looks like we have some additional items to add. And to see those. So one is the retirement of Jason Boyd. What?
Aw. There is Jason.
It's somewhere hiding here.
He's making his grand entrance before he makes his exit.
The other one is a resignation of Elizabeth Moore Mullen as an elementary school teacher. And then we also have to add in the action items an audit report.
That's the audit stuff. Yay, audit.
Good job. I'd like to make a motion to add those in.
I'd like to make a motion to add the items to the agenda that are
Second.
There's a adjusted agenda, I mean, that's adjusted motion and we're about to take.
Yeah, make sure
I'm trying to get into my.
make sure you have your follow button up above, click so then you can follow along as I advance this.
Did I hear a second on that?
A second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the additional agenda items as shown in the description. Are there any questions?
I just don't see where it says the script.
Oh, where it says you moving us down?
So if you click on agenda review, we're in a agenda review,
Oh,
and there's
yeah.
the recommended motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Okay, click on agenda review.
There we go, I got it up for you.
It was there. no,
Okay,
it's not.
so a motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda with the requested additions. Are there any questions? If there are none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Carries. Okay, next we have our reports. So we have our audit reports. Do we have?
Brian Thompson is on Zoom. To give us the report.
Brian,
Hi, Brian.
looks like you're muted.
There we go. Can I come through okay? Yeah, a second here. Okay. Am I coming through okay? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, you can.
I see a nod, so very good. Okay. So, like I said, my name is Brian Thompson. I'm the audit team lead representing Polly Rogers, and I'm here to present the audit report. And just a quick little disclaimer before I begin, the audit report's not fully finished, but our managing partner, Roy, he's currently finishing things up, doing his little final review. But once he's done with that, we'll get the report out to the Secretary of State and good to go for 23-24. So with that, I'll go ahead and briefly go over the purpose of the audit. So the purpose of our audit is just to make sure everything's presented fairly and reasonably, and making sure all the financial statements are in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles, as well as the generally accepted auditing standards. And then we also want to stay in compliance with the state's municipal audit law and the related rules there. And then we also do what we call a single audit. This basically is our way of testing the federal and state expenditures related to grants that the district receives from the feds and the states, and just making sure everything's in compliance there. All right, and then I'll go ahead and move on to the results. I'm happy to announce that we have an unqualified opinion. For those who are not in the know, this basically means this is a clean opinion with no outstanding, or we didn't find any issues to be aware of, and everything looked great there in the financial statements. Statement of standards, we didn't find any exceptions or issues with those. And then federal awards, we didn't find any issues with non-compliance as far as the state and federal testing there. Again, going back to that single audit process that we do on our end. And then we did not have to send out a management letter. This just is only sent out to management if and only if there are any material weaknesses or any significant deficiencies during the audit process. And fortunately, we did not find any, so that's always good news there. So I have to announce that. And then a couple of upcoming accounting and auditing standards to be aware of. One in particular that I'd like to emphasize is GASB 101, which goes over how we disclose compensated absences, basically vacation, paid time off, sick leave, everything related to that. We just have to, they're just wanting us to disclose more in detail as far as like what was accumulated and what was attributed towards services rendered, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just more to do on our part, but of course we'll get help from management side of things to make sure we're in compliance with that. And then lastly, I do have a couple of best practices. These are essentially, they're not significant deficiencies, but these are just little comments that we leave at the end of the audit just to bring attention to the board. And I only have a couple here. One of which has to do with the Fidelity insurance coverage. We just noted that the district had cash accounts that were they're higher in excess of the insurance coverage threshold, and this has been an ongoing year after year comment that we found, and it's a recurring kind of a thing with a lot of the districts. So you're not the only exception to this. And then the other one has to do with 403B compliance requirements. This is from the IRS. This is just to make sure we're under compliance as far as administrative requirements. We've noted that the district uses a third party to keep track of a lot of the compliance stuff. And again, this is just another kind of a comment that we've had with districts around the states. Is again not an exception with your district, so it's just another thing to be aware of there. So in conclusion, everything looks great. Everything was in compliance. Everything was presented fairly and reasonably in the financial statements, and I'm open to any questions the board may have at this time.
Any questions for Brian? No, Brian, it looks like we're good.
Wonderful, thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Take care.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we need to do an action item on.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to do this. It's just not, so we'll wait to approve the audit in the action
You can
items.
approve it now.
You can do it now.
Oh.
That's the suggested motion is in
Yeah.
this item.
I move to approve the audit report.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the audit report. Are there any questions? Or comments?
If there's any changes that come up with that report, then we just look at that and approve to move forward with it.
Yeah, because he said it was he said it was a clean audit, right? So
Mhm.
and there's only some like little finishing touches to complete it.
Yeah.
I'd like the guys to sign the paper.
Yeah.
And they can't technically finish it until they send it in to the state.
To
Yeah.
the state
So-
and upload it to the feds and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. yeah.
but saying that it's a clean report is.
And we have our complete report for them.
Yeah. So. Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the audit report. Are there any other questions or comments? There are none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
You got Chris.
Yeah, you got Chris online.
Oh, we do.
Aye. There we go. Hi, Chris. Oh,
I was an aye, hi.
any opposed? Motion carries.
And-
Chris, thanks for joining us.
When did Chris join? us?
Just like
May I ask?
right now.
One during the audit report.
Yeah, just saw it there.
Yeah.
Just.
And Brian, the reason we put the audit report at the beginning of reports instead of under action items is because we didn't want the gentleman to have to
Yes,
wait through all of our reports.
100%. Yep,
Yep.
definitely. I totally get it.
Wanted to cut him a break.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Okay, next we have student business, and I'm guessing IDET is at an activity.
She's not here tonight.
Yep. Next we have the superintendent report.
All right, everybody, I'll be brief. So, I just want to highlight that, we had a staff and family connection event last Friday for wellness. Sandra, thanks for attending. We had over 200 staff and family for dinner and bingo, at the Elks. A big shout out to the Elks for, how much they supported us through that and reducing their fees and all that. So they were a really great partner in this. And so thank you to everybody, on the wellness committee for all your hard work on that. The second thing is I'd like to commend our 9th grade success team. Last Tuesday during the Northwest Regional ESD board meeting, which they actually had here, they like to kind of travel around to the other places, that Jane Foreman and Lynn Addis, along with some ESD folks, presented and acknowledged our team. If you remember a couple months ago, I showed you that video of, so in addition to Jane and Lynn, we had a couple students who were in that video, present and really get some kudos from the Northwest Regional ESD board. So I just want to say how proud I am of our 9th grade success team and all the hard work they're doing. So the last thing I'd like to do is also give a shout out to business manager Tony Vandershaw. She has received her SFO certification, which is Certified Administrator of School Finance and Operations. This has been a lot of work on her part and successfully taking that test. So congratulations, Tony.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, and that's my report for you tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you,
I walked
Susan.
in for basketball awards and was like, I wasn't supposed to be in a meeting, was I?
That was the ESD.
Yeah, I
meeting.
saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, I need to be there. There was panic though.
Okay, business and fiscal service report. Tony,
Yes,
You back up?
we are on track, but most of my time has been budget for the past month, so that's what I've been doing.
yes.
Just mostly
Yeah.
budget
I think we
and
saw-
finishing up the audit.
yes,
Good job.
Yep. I think
So I'm very glad that both are basically, in the can, so.
Right, okay, wonderful. All right, next we have Seaside High School Academic Progress Report. Mr. Jeff Roberts.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're happy you're here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Slides.
Deal.
This is the worst one.
You can come here.
Everyone come to this side. Everyone come here.
I have a good spot.
So thank you all. I wanna, I guess, my intent is to be succinct tonight and to share some, some of our critical data points, that we've seen and provide some narrative around some things that when you look at, I go, well, why is that happening? And I wanna, try to provide kind of the story as to where we are right now with some of the information that you'll see, because there have been some significant changes over the last 5 years or so, in some of the requirements from the state and a lot of those things that provide, I think, an insight as to where we're doing. So Kyle, if you wouldn't mind, I just want to show a real quick demographic breakdown of our students right now. As we've seen, our student body has evolved as well. Our enrollment has remained relatively consistent at the high school. I think, as a matter of fact, we might be the only school in the district that is showing more students than the previous years. But who our students are continues to evolve. It's really fantastic, to see the growth in our Latinx population. It's been, just a really cool thing to have a diverse student population and be able to provide that opportunity for so many of our students to embrace that and to enjoy that and to learn from each other. So with that being, there's not a significant change from year to year in the most recent years, but in the last 10 to 15 years, right, we've seen a pretty dramatic change in who our students are that we continue to serve. Kyle? So tonight, there's really 5, I think, critical points that we look at from a high school perspective. Currently we aren't necessarily doing as much benchmark testing as you'll see at the elementary school and at the middle school. There's some reasons for that we can certainly talk about if we need to, but I think part of that will come out in some of the things we'll discuss tonight. So one of the things I want to talk about primarily is attendance. And I would say, Kyle, if you wouldn't mind, these are kind of staggering numbers, right? When you look at our current attendance rates for our students, if you look at that data and say, man, that is problematic, I would absolutely agree with you. The challenge is not just locally, though. I think people are with the professional colleagues that I speak with. We recently had the opportunity to work with some folks, equity consultants, one from Des Moines, Iowa, one from Austin, Texas, that are both in and around schools quite frequently. They're seeing these common trends in their schools as well. And so while it's not okay, it's not unusual. Right? When you look at that data point to the right, that 54% of our students in the high school would be considered chronically absent, meaning that they have missed, right, for whatever reason, right? I mean, and and I think that's important. Those are not just unexcused absences, right? Those could be excused absences. Those could be, family vacations where parents are calling and say, hey, we're taking our kids for whatever. It could be for a lot of reasons, but 54, over half of our students have missed more than 10% of the days they've been enrolled in school. Right, that is a real challenge. It's a challenge to have consistent learning. One of the things, yeah, Brian.
So the question is, so an average student, like how many days a year would you miss to be, below 90%? what's it, like 2 days a month or something, or? is it-
Yeah, so,
Something like that. I'm just trying to wrap
student
my brain
contact
around.
days are around 170.
Yeah. okay.
Right, and so, yeah, so 17, I mean, you know,
Yeah,
there's teacher school
17
day,
days.
there's teacher school year is 180 contract days, you know, let's say there's 10 days in there that are non-contact days, conferences and
Right.
grade prep and those types of things. So if we're looking at 170 days, student missing 17 days, you know, the way I phrase it oftentimes with families, that's 3 weeks of school.
Yeah.
And and now we have students that, you know, to this point have missed months.
Yeah,
Months of, I mean, over half of our students have missed a month worth of school.
Yeah.
Which is a real challenge. You know, some of the things that I'm thankful for is that we are still on a trimester schedule where students are being seen in class every single day. You know, I have colleagues from across the state that are in block schedules, and when you are seeing kids every other day, you know, a student misses a day, right? You know, that's equivalent to missing, you know, 2-3 days of how we have school set up. So we're doing some things, you know, to try and mitigate that. If you go to the next slide, Kyle. You know, we look at kind of, this is a data point. Yeah, I pulled this on the day that I put this presentation together on Tuesday, April 8th. You'll see on that number to the left, that is the percentage of schools, excuse me, the percentage of students that attended on that day. 83% on Tuesday the 8th. So. Yeah, right. I mean,
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
is
yeah.
it close to
I mean,
spring break,
Yeah,
or
but
is it
and you look at that, you know, you look at the annual graph, and some of those are really easy to look. I mean, if you roll, if this was real time and I was able to roll the cursor over that, I can, all right, that's the Friday before spring break.
Mhm.
Or that is the half day of, you know, conferences, right? You know, do I love that folks are missing? No, but makes a lot more sense.
Mhm.
But to look at a random Tuesday, the 8th, and that 17% of your students aren't attending, you know, it continues to be a challenge. And so what are we doing to combat that? You know, we've really focused on attendance and reaching out to families and our grade level success team. You know, we've had a lot of success with our freshman success team. And so we've tried to replicate that at other grade levels with different groups of teachers and having them triage students individually as opposed to a blanket practice of trying to fix this, you know, so making contact with individual students and families versus a, you know, kind of a shotgun approach to hit everybody with the same message. But, you know, we have Jason and we have our folks in the front office, Shirley Yates, making regular phone calls. You know, plenty of meetings, whether that's a counseling, whether that's with myself or with Jason, meeting with students, trying to understand the why, you know, what is going on and why. You know, every student's story is different, right? And so it is impossible to have a singular, you know, fix to a lot of the challenges we're facing. You know, we have free breakfast and free lunch for kids, so we're able to provide them those types of things. We are you know, going to homes. We're connecting with Corporal Gagnon. You know, at one point in time, years ago, when I was still the assistant principal, we had the access to a truancy officer. The reality was, I don't know that was, it didn't present at that point in time as terribly effective for us to get kids to return to school. I don't know. I know there's some pending legislation around returning fines to families for truant students. Have we gotten to a place where maybe that gets the attention again? I don't know the answer to that. Right now, we currently don't have access to that, aren't using that, because I don't know that it's, I'd love to see some data to demonstrate that that is an effective means of getting kids back in school versus just giving that a run, right? Sometimes we know, it's not necessarily the parents' fault.
Mhm.
I mean, we can say, I mean, it's not sometimes. And so, again, we're gonna continue to connect these families with our community partners and do the things and try to get them coming to school. But it is, I mean, it's a challenge, and it's a challenge across the board in this district and across the state and across the nation. And so I'm hopeful with some of the, you know, programming and things that we're doing. We know that kids will be here when they are engaged in school, and so continuing to try to make things that are interesting, clubs, athletics, co-curricular activities accessible to all of our students, is one way we know that we can get kids coming to school on a consistent basis. So in order to learn, they need to be here. Yeah.
Do you have data points on like a collection of why they're missing, if you're able to get that information? I guess the question is, can you get that information?
That data point would need to come from, individual conversations with students,
Got it,
right?
that's fine.
So, yeah, so like if in 17, let's say that's 17% of our kids are missing, roughly, what's that, that's 80 kids
Mhm.
a day. We don't have the ability to, so when they miss, we usually don't know that they miss until they're marked absent, right? It's very rarely that families are, the percentage of families that are calling in, excusing their students is relatively low as well. So we don't generally know in the high school level that they're gone,
Mhm.
or gonna be gone until they're gone.
So the data is excused or an excuse, so if they're gone for like a sport, does that still count as missing?
It does not,
Okay,
yeah, it does not.
that's a large portion.
It is, and one of the things too, I think it's important to understand is daily attendance, so, daily attendance is different than period attendance.
Mhm.
And so daily attendance is, a student might have been here for 2 classes, but has missed third, fourth, and fifth period, right? There's a 50% threshold in, figuring daily attendance for, to calculate that number. Does that make sense?
So
So
that's
it counts
included?
as they're here. if
Yeah,
they're-
so some of those students,
Okay, they have to be at least at 50%.
50%, they have to attend 50% of the day for the state to consider that, as a daily attendance marker. So,
A lot of questions come to mind when I watch
Mhm.
this, because this is clearly something that's close to my heart, right?
Yep. Mhm.
Though I have a child who doesn't always go to school too.
Mhm.
When we get this information from the person collecting it or persons collecting it, what do we then do with that information to support the students?
what information,
Like-
help me clarify what information you're talking about.
So if we're calling home and we're
Mhm.
connecting, or we're saying, what's going on with your child, and then they share specific information, not connecting with the teachers, or
Mhm.
feeling shamed when they do come to school, or, just multiple things that students experience, where does that information go from there?
Yeah, I mean, in full transparency, in the occasions where we are able to have those transparent and real conversations with families when they return phone calls and we're able to connect with them, we take those stories, very seriously, and oftentimes that looks like, conversations with our counseling office and how we can provide services that we have access to help solve some of those programs. We have a great medical provider here, so if there's medical needs, we can connect with, with our school nurse, Danny, and she can seek resources for them if there are, houseless, students are houseless or, in transition. We have access to, Clatsop Community Action and trying to, secure vouchers, and those things are becoming more and more challenging to get as well. So, yeah, it is, when we get that information, I think we do our best, right, to find a person in this building, or that we can connect that student with, that is going to be able to perform some triage to get them back in class. If it is, if there are situations where there is, accusations of bullying or perceived, transgressions of that nature, we're gonna have conversations with students about how we can make this a place where they want to be and welcome and take the appropriate steps to make this a place where students feel safe. So, it's interesting. Some of the other data points, I'm gonna show you here a little bit, it's kind of interesting because, oftentimes the stories we hear are not necessarily as a result of, disciplinary transgressions towards other students. And I think that shows up kind of in our next slide. One of the things I think we're incredibly proud of is when you look at the behavior data for Seaside High School specifically, it's pretty incredible. I mean, in terms of the atmosphere and the level of incidents that are happening. Now, what I will tell you is when I saw on that right-hand side, 264 total recorded incidents this year, I about fell out of my chair. I said, holy smokes. So that is a significant jump from what we saw the year prior. And as I started to dig into, well, why is that the case? Well, you look at the next data point, the 157 phone violations this year, right? And so,
Didn't exist last
yeah,
year.
right, versus last year where we had maybe, one or two. And so, a referral is not necessarily a bad word, right? A referral is a way in which we are, students don't want referrals, right? Because that inherently says that, right, there's these massive transgressions. Well, we use a referral system to track our discipline data. And so, there's gonna be an increase anytime you record things. So, yeah, of the 264 violations we've had this year, 157 of them be because of students being caught with their phone.
Just caught with a phone?
Yeah, caught with a phone,
Oh,
right?
okay.
It may be a student's first time or
Yeah.
second time, but those, I mean, that explains a lot when I kind of said, oh, goodness sakes.
So when you take that
It's-
number out.
Yeah,
only
this number's
27.
out, it's hardly, I mean, it's hardly anything.
And that's because
Um,
we implemented the.
No, 27.
Yonder?
Yonder?
Yeah, so right, so this is year to date, from the beginning of this year, that,
What would be a low level?
those 200, we had 264 total recorded incidents year to date. 157 of those have been as a result of violation. Those are, right, those are not transgressions that I'm necessarily worried about.
Mhm.
Right, those are easily correctable, hey, put the phone away, we're gonna take it for the day, right? 27 incidents this year have resulted in a student being out of school suspension. So, that is again, a incredibly low threshold. And then when you look at, the amount of students, or the amount of incidents, right? So that is, the numbers on the left reflect, how many students have had 1 to 2 incidents. And how many
Where's-
students have had 3 to 5? I mean, we've had 0 students in this building with 5 or more referrals this year, which is pretty remarkable.
Is 27 suspensions out of school pretty average?
Average for us, well below average for similar schools of our size and demographics. I mean, it's, that is something to be really proud of. I mean, so I mean,
Good job.
I don't have data from other schools from a comparative standpoint, but when you again talk to professional colleagues, I mentioned the folks that were here from Texas, and I were here last week, and we were going through a lot of this information. They were kind of Daniel, who was a principal at his high school in Austin, significantly larger urban area, but he was kind of, I showed him this and he's like, is this accurate? I said, yeah, it's super accurate. And he's like, I don't understand how that can be, right? And so, I think the next slide really provides, what's that?
Which school in Austin? I'm just curious, 'cause I'm from Austin.
Yeah,
Do you remember?
Highlands there? I don't know.
Okay.
I can find out.
That's okay.
And all that.
Yeah.
But I think this is telling, right? I think this information, this is as a result of, Panorama SEL survey that we sent to kids early in this year. But when you look at the nature of those questions, like, do you have a teacher or other adult from school that you can count on to help you no matter what? And 82% of our kids respond favorably. I think that those are really important to know. So I think when you look at the data of behavior and you look at why might that be happening, I think that kids that are coming enjoy being here, right? I think that our adults, we've spent a lot of time over recent years, really focused on responding appropriately to students that have experienced trauma, and how to welcome them into school, how to provide a space for them to be here, to feel safe, That data right there, I think speaks volumes to the culture in this building. When 92% of our students say, do you have a friend from school you can be completely yourself around? That makes you feel good that you have created an environment where students can be themselves. Right now, again, that is a data point. I mean, I am not saying that we are not without some challenges sometimes on kids being jerks and being mean, but I would tell you that I think the culture in here is folks taking care of each other, community centric, and caring about each other and being able to be themselves. Kyle, next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about the Oregon statewide assessments, right? Commonly
Can I
referred
ask
to.
one
Yeah,
question
please, go ahead, Sally.
regarding attendance is, so probably hand in hand, but is there any information that you have on those attendance rates affecting grades or graduation?
I think it's safe to say, right, that students not attending regularly are not performing as well academically. Now, are there outliers? Absolutely, right? We know that there are students that are pretty bright, that can just do the thing. I would say in general, there is a direct correlation between attendance, performance academically in class. Yes, yes. When we look at the statewide data information in a second, we're going to look at a 3-year comparison between our 3-year composite average of both our writing and our math, and we're going to look at it in 2 different ways, from participation and our achievement scores. But I think there's important to understand what has happened in Oregon over the last several years as it relates to Oregon statewide assessments. So students test in 8th grade and then do not test again until 11th grade. In the spring of 2020, right, during when we were sent home from school, testing was suspended, right? It made sense. Testing was suspended. At that point in time, till current day, what are known as essential skills are no longer required to earn an Oregon diploma. And so while the state test was not the only way to demonstrate essential skills, which was a proficiency score or demonstrate proficiency in writing and in math, it was the most common way, the least least intrusive way. And when I say easiest, I don't mean necessarily that the test was easy, but it was the most common way for students to demonstrate their essential skills. Sit down, take the SBAC. I could go into classrooms and say, listen, this is critically important. This is, if you don't pass this, then we're talking about work samples and we're talking about additional testings. And so at that point in time, juniors were like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna give it my best shot. And essential skills are no longer required, right? And so since that time, we have experienced a drop in participation between 20 to 44% between opt-outs and students simply not showing up to take that test. Right? That's a significant number, certainly impacts the achievement. And then I think it's important to know the nature of the tests now typically take between, if a student was to sit down, give it their very best shot, testing takes between 8 and 10 hours to complete, which is a substantial amount of time, multiple days out of class. And I mean, we have to find, we've done it in classrooms before. It's pretty disruptive. We've tried testing centers, like turning the auxiliary gym into a testing center. There's just no real clean way to, in a high school, to stop, right? Because classes aren't, maybe except for their English classes, might be the only class that a whole grade level of students that are in. And so not only are you disrupting, I mean, if you do it that way, you are significantly impacting, 2 to 3 weeks of instruction in a English class versus disrupting so I just want to provide some of that narrative when we look at the information to kind of set the stage for maybe why the numbers look like they do. So if we look at our writing participation and our achievement scores on the next slide, you will see 3-year average of comparisons, right? In 2017, 18, and 19, prior to the essential skills being required for graduation, we had 98% of our students participate. In 22, 23, 24, subsequent to essential skills not being required, that's dropped to 81%. Achievement prior to requiring these tests to demonstrate proficiency for graduation, we had 67.3% of our students achieve. Subsequent to that, we've had 31% of our students show proficiency.
And that's just writing sentences or paragraphs or.
Yeah, so it is reading comprehension, writing, right? And so they're reading passages, answering questions. There's writing samples that are submitted to demonstrate the ELA component of that. I will tell you, I do not fundamentally believe that our students are achieving at a 36% lower rate
Okay,
than they were.
thank you. That was gonna be my question.
Again,
That's
we have
shocking.
data points that would dispute that.
Mhm.
But what I can tell you from an anecdotal standpoint is that it is really challenging to tell 17-year-olds that this is really important. And for them to go in and commit 8 to 10 hours to doing that and giving me their best shot when they know at the end of the day, doesn't matter.
Right, so why is it important? Right, that's the question. Why is it important at this point? And then how to illustrate that to them.
It's a really difficult question to answer.
Well, with the advent of AI and ChatGPT that can create the summaries for you.
Well,
would
I think the
assume-
question is not whether or not this is where they are, because if this is where they are, that has nothing to do with the test. Right? If students are at this achievement level, a test isn't what got them there. It's everything that came before the test. So what they're bringing to the test, I think is
Well, yeah, I think one of the big wonders are the results from the singular data point, right, that are reported in the news, that are reported on our report card, are they authentic?
I mean, if you're gonna play a game that doesn't matter, you're not gonna care as much as if you play a game that does
Yeah.
matter.
So,
Well, and anytime a test has an opt-out option, you don't have a full, you don't have a full set of data.
Right.
And so, that, it can be hard to look at incomplete data.
mhm.
Yeah.
And so when you look at math, right, and when we were I mean, the other thing is that these are within reason of state averages. So again, this is not the Seaside, this is not the Seaside School District, this is the Seaside School District, right? This data is, but these are not, right, significantly different from what we're seeing as state averages. Kyle, if you look at math, right, 95% participation, 80% participation. Pre-pandemic, or when it was required, we had 30% of our students passing.
That's a low number.
It's incredibly low.
At 7's much lower.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's also on trend with the state averages? Those numbers?
They're not far off.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
Looks like 20% are opting out in that 22, 23, 24. was looking like
Mhm.
over the last 3 years, that 20% of people aren't taking the test.
Correct.
What are the alternatives to assessing these things if this is optional?
I am not confident, right? I am not confident that a singular test is an appropriate data point that demonstrates proficiency, because unless, I shouldn't say proficiency, that, because unless it is tied to something that matters to young people, right? Earning a high school diploma, I don't know that we're ever gonna get authentic results. I trust, right? I trust my staff. And when they look and they assess students on the Oregon State standards, that when they earn a grade, they are demonstrating their ability to be proficient in the Oregon State standards that are required for a student to earn a diploma.
So how are the grades then? If you were to. Are people passing? I don't know what has, how it's scaled.
Well, we're gonna look at graduation rates.
Okay.
How about that?
Well, you said they can graduate though, without a diploma.
No,
No.
No.
No, without
You
the
don't-
requirements
These
are
are-
lifted to like,
you used to
Yeah.
have to have state testing.
Yeah.
It's no longer
Oh, I
required.
see,
Yes,
but you
yes.
still have to pass your classes. to get your
Yes.
diploma.
Yeah.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
Yeah.
anyone could just get the
You-
diploma now.
Yes, thank you. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
I'm just
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah, essential skills, right? Essential skills were a
Like the-
proficiency mark that you had to
Right.
achieve in addition to your grades.
Yeah, and
But I
in,
mean-
in addition to earning the 24, for us, 25
Mhm.
credits in order to graduate, you had to pass the essential skills in math, reading.
That, and there was a,
A science test.
the science wasn't required for graduation. It was just reading comprehension, literature and reading comprehension and math. Yeah,
But it's-
science was a data point, but again, not required for graduation.
As Michelle pointed out, the 30% wasn't very impressive before either.
So this is a 6-year trend in graduation. I think it is a positive trend. I will say, you look at 2002, well, we went back down. 2002 was an incredible anomaly where we hit 91% graduation. The question is, well, what did you do differently than you did the years differently? I wish I could, I mean, honestly, I'd love
What
to
year
tell you.
was the
better
measure
kids, better
98?
kids.
Yeah, right.
What year did measure 98 money start?
Excuse me?
What year did measure 98 money start?
Oh, that's been in place.
2019? It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So when we started, Measure 98 was, line when we started, we started our culinary arts program, so that would have been back in the old school, so 2017, 2018, is that?
So I would
Yeah.
say,
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
might even been
Before that,
16, but
yeah.
yeah. It's been around for 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I think you can definitely say that the freshman on track, if you figure you gotta go backwards and the trend is moving forward.
Yeah.
Definitely, I mean, that speaks right there.
Yeah,
think.
absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that I think we're most proud of, and if you go to the next slide, Kyle, is kind of this critical data point of ninth grade success, right? We have committed a lot of effort and, again, prior to pandemic, numbers were really positive. 2020 is not there because that was not calculated that year. 2012, that reason that looks like 36% is because when we went to a hybrid learning, we didn't. There were fewer credits available to earn in that year than there were, and that's why we saw a significant drop in there. I mean, we designed a schedule to minimize the amount of time, credits that students can earn, so that it was manageable. And then we've seen a really positive trend in the last couple of years. And again, Susan mentioned this in her report. Our freshman on track team was recognized for the work that they're doing, which resulted in a substantial growth last year, up to 86%. And I want to take an opportunity to publicly recognize the folks on on the right of that slide that are on our ninth grade success team. Lynn Addis, Jane Foreman, Wendy Crozier, Haley Warrow, Kaylee Waldemar, Donald Zwollen, Ann Susie, Jaron Bowles, Matt Klosterman, and Doug Mitchell, who have committed a lot of time to ensuring that our students are getting off and they're setting a tone to get off on the right foot. We know this is this is a single most important data point in determining whether or not a student graduates from high school, right? Nothing else.
Is there ninth grade?
Is there success in ninth grade? And what ninth grade success looks like is that they earn 25% of the credits required for graduation during their freshman year. That is a single greatest indicator of them graduating from high school. So 86% of our students did that their freshman year last year, which is a really, really good trend.
And this is the team that helps support that.
Correct.
The
Correct.
credits.
Primarily freshman teachers.
Okay.
Also made up, like Lynn Addis is a classified, but is our freshman on track coach. And so she's meeting with students, primarily meeting with freshmen, programming. Haley Warrow is our student success TOSA, so is heavily involved in that work with students as well. The balance of those folks have a lot of freshmen in their classes. Aunt Susie, freshman English, Jaron Bowles, intro to construction, Matt Klosterman, civics, Doug Mitchell, physical science, Donald Zwollen, algebra and pre-algebra, right? Haley Waldemar, freshman health. So.
When was the student success implemented? What year?
I would say it coincided with Measure 98. So that was again about 2017, 2018. I think it's taken us some time to find our sweet spot with that, right? As any new initiative does, it's going to take some time for folks to
Certain things like this.
And then it was also on pause during COVID.
It was.
So we needed to
Yeah.
restart it after that.
Yeah, very difficult to impact kids remotely, as we noticed. So those are, again, those are some of the critical data points I wanted to share tonight, and provide some narrative around what you see in a report card and those types of things. 'Cause I think when you look at the state report card, it can be, it can be shocking, but I think there's a story and there's a reason why some of those things are occurring. I didn't want to leave tonight also without, mentioning some of our celebrations. I have three things I really want to indicate. When we talk about some things that are happening in this building that maybe not be reflected in that data all the time, it's a great opportunity to celebrate, like our CTE programs, for example. This is, we have worked really hard, and Jaron Bowles has worked really hard to transition our woods program from a wood shop to a construction program. And so there you see the placement of the first shed that we built in conjunction with the Broadway Field remodel. They're working on their second, and they will have 3 more to go. So that's super cool. These kids are getting practical work. Super proud of the young woman holding the ladder, Clarissa Rubio. She was, the foreman of this project, which is really awesome. I mean, when we look at equity and we look at, recognizing students, and here we have a Latino young woman, right, in charge of a construction project, which is really a non-traditional role. And so being able to have those opportunities and expose our students to those types of things is really important. Next slide. I'm sure.
Keeps them in line too.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't mess with her. I think Idette would have been super excited to share this news, but Mike Verholz and our marketing entrepreneurship continues to be incredible. FBLA just conclude. I guess I should have said, I'm sorry, that's the wrong date. It should have been 2025. We just got back 2 weeks ago, had 9 state championships, 5 runners up, 3rd top place finishes, and 10 top 10 finishes. Again, really incredible. And lastly, Kyle, as we've talked about and kind of gone back and forth, how our students being exposed and kind of getting a quote unquote running start. We have a really strong relationship with Classic Community College. I think that is really becoming stronger. While we currently have, I believe, up to 46 credits that are available for students to earn. That number is going to increase significantly over the next year in a partnership and adding more college level classes in addition to CTE classes that can college algebra, Spanish, anatomy, physiology, lit classes. So it's a pretty cool opportunity for our kids to walk in this door, earn college credit upon their exit.
And it's really nice to work with Jared Hogue, the new president at the college. He's just really dedicated to partnering with high schools.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
They don't understand the value of it until they leave.
Now,
Thank you, Jeff. That was a lot of great information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff?
I guess, do we really need the data points for the testing then? If you're showing such, I mean, what's the point of that then?
well, that's, I mean, it's gonna get reported
Whether we like
regardless.
it or not. it's
Yeah, the
requirement.
state requires it. Yeah.
State requires.
I know,
Okay,
I know.
all right.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay. Lightning,
I guess I could have stayed there.
good. Administrative reports. Who would like to go first?
Jeff already went.
I was gonna say Jeff, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Julie.
We just finished up our fourth grade. If I were mayor, so all of our fourth graders participated in that contest. They made posters, and so our three mayors, Gerhart, Seaside, and Ken Beach came and announced the winners. They looked at the posters, came and announced that to our fourth graders, and they, the top two get to come to the next city council with the gavel and help run the meeting. So that's really exciting. We have our mental math competition with Clatsop Community College, and it's 3rd through 8th grade. So we are sending 9 students, 3 from each grade level, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, to the mental math competition on Thursday. I was gonna say it's coming up here soon. And yeah, so we're excited about that. And then our 4th, 5th graders are getting ready for Bigstown. So I know that Susan spoke about this at the maybe last board meeting, but right now what they're doing is they're applying for jobs, right? So they go to a town and they have to do the job for the day. They have a checkbook, they get paid, they have a specific lunch break, they have to do all the things, right? And so it's a really good real world, right, experience for them. And they're really excited about that. We've got Kinder Connect coming up on the 14th of May to welcome our new kinders coming in. And if you want to have a night out, we have a Men's Friends and Family fundraiser on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. Yeah.
Thank you.
Julie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You got it, Wendy.
Yeah, I will be brief, even though we have tons of things going on, but we did just, we had our 6th grade preview night, 6th grade and 9th grade preview night last night. It was very well attended. We were questioning whether we were gonna get very many upcoming 9th graders, and we got more than we thought. And so it was a really successful night for students to connect. We had our robotics team here kind of showcasing their robots. So we got lots of interest from upcoming 8th graders into robotics. So that was nice to see. We are doing the mental math on Thursday. We're sending 12 students. We also send students for algebra. So kids who are ready in middle school to compete at an algebra level are also going. So that's happening this week. We are also taking our accelerated ELA classes next week up to Astoria for a Shakespeare performance at the Liberty Theater. So we're excited about that. We've just got lots and lots of field trips and things coming up as we move into May and June. But I think the biggest kind of culminating event that we're hopeful that we'll get board members to and lots of community members to is our multicultural night coming up the end of this month on April 30th. It's going to have lots of fun events. So we hope that lots of people can come to that.
April 30th, what time?
April 30th, it starts at 6 o'clock. We might play some football at 5:30 though. If you got enough.
Where is that at?
3:45.
Yeah.
Up here.
Hi, Jason.
Hi. We have our spring musical starts this Friday, 7 p.m. Friday, Saturday showings this week, and then the following week, we have parent conferences Thursday evening, we also have a play showing that evening at 7, and then on Friday, we'll finish up parent conferences during the short part of that day. And have the spring musical, we'll finish up Friday and Saturday, showings at 7. In the cafeteria, we'd love to see you there. Those kids are working really, really hard. And if you haven't had a chance to visit one of our musicals in the last year, we now have cushioned seats, so it's much more comfortable for the for your body when you sit there and go through that great experience. So love to see you there.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jason. Okay,
Just real quickly, we finished up alpha testing, and the kids that test early, we find out whether or not they pass. We had 2 kids in the middle school and 2 kids in elementary school pass, and we'll get the rest of those scores in June.
What is that testing?
Alpha, English language proficiency
thank
assessment,
you.
that's what, that's how we decide who's eligible for ELD services. And then the only other thing I wanted to say is big shout out to our instructional coaches. The secondary coach has been leading some great professional development on our early release Wednesdays. And our elementary instructional coach has done a marvelous job of trying to mesh a million different schedules into a couple of days where teachers can go around and look at each other's classrooms, observe what other teachers are doing, see other great things in the building, share ideas, and so big shout out to both of our instructional coaches.
thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
And that's it for our administrators, and then we have the CBA report, Cannon Beach Academy.
Yeah, that is, that's attached there in your document, so feel free to take a look at that at your leisure.
Yeah, they got some good stuff going on down there. Next, union reports, Jane, welcome.
Thanks. So teachers are kind of in the middle of the thick of it, as you could hear from all the things going on. Middle school's testing right now, so I can attest to the state testing requirements right now. Yes, it is 8 to 10 hours or more. Let's see, we are in the middle of having not negotiations, but like picking our officers for next year and our board, so we'll see who ends up where. And other than that, we're just kind of plugging along and lining up the field trips and all of that stuff, so. And conferences for secondary are next week. I know that the grade school just finished them up not too long ago. So we're all kind of wrapping up our year, but also trying to get as much in as we can, so.
Awesome.
Got it?
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Megan, are you online today? No Megan today? Oh, football practice?
Or she might have thought this was gonna happen like an hour ago.
Yeah.
She was, when I talked to her yesterday, she was unsure if she was gonna be able to
Okay.
join us, so.
Okay. Okay. Now is our public comment time. Do we have any public comment here today? No? Kyle, any online? Nope, no public comment, okay. Next is our consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented, including what we added.
Yeah,
Second.
motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda items, items as presented. That's weird. Are there any questions or comments?
Boyd, thanks for teaching me how to drive.
Yep, Jason, you're retiring? Is that it? Are you?
The students are.
Oh,
He's got her, he still has to work. He's not retired yet.
oh, okay.
Secondary.
Got it, okay, all right. We have a reflection period to ask Jason questions. Okay, motion been made and seconded to accept the consent agenda as shown. Any other questions or comments? There are none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, Chris?
Still there.
Is Chris still there?
Oh, there we go, thank you. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have our action items, notice of intent to award CMGC summer 2025 projects. Mr. Brian Hardebeck.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Just a quick item tonight in front of the board. I believe we've, whether Susan has brought this forward or not, but the selection committee for the capital 2025 capital projects has completed the review of the proposals. We did take proposals from, received proposals from 3 contractors on April 10th. The team went through review over the weekend and individually scored each one of the 3 proposals. The committee of 6 of us met this morning and reviewed the summary of the scoring. And the recommendation, it was a 100% consistent number 1 member to be recommended for the selection. So it was pretty evident across the board of the recommendation. So the committee is recommending the selection to issue a notice of intent to award for the CMGC Phase 1 services to Brokamp and Jaeger in the amount of $11,848.
So this is for our summer projects.
Right.
And Brokamp and Jagger is the company that did our summer projects this last year and also the softball field.
Right.
Correct.
Excellent.
Do we have an idea of what those projects are currently?
The summer projects.
Are they?
Yeah, it is adding more parking at the elementary. And then also enclosing some open spaces here at the secondary school to add more classrooms.
Look at nice body.
I move to accept the selection committee recommendation to issue a notice of intent to award for the 2025 capital project CMGC Phase 1 services to Brokamp and Jaeger Construction in the amount of $11,848.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to accept the selection committee's recommendation to issue a notice of intent to award for the 2025 capital projects CMGC Phase 1 services of Brokamp and Jaeger Construction in the amount of $11,848. Are there any questions? If there are none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. Next, we have the requests to surplus a 7T20 school bus.
Yes, so as we've come to you before, there are times, and if you see the attached document there are times when we are ready to surplus out a vehicle. If that can be because it ages out, or sometimes if there are some kind of complications with it also. But in order to bring, anything new in from ordering from previous years, we need to make space. I'm also recommending that we sell this surplus bus to Warrenton School District. I know you have been favorable of that, and we like to be able to supply vehicles that, while we may not need them anymore, other districts do. So to be able to keep that local. So I recommend you surplus this bus, and also approve to sell that to Warrenton.
Can we do that in one motion?
You can.
I move to approve the disposal of bus 7T20 as requested, as well as sell the bus to Warrenton School District.
A second.
A motion has been made and seconded to accept the recommendation to sell the T20 bus to surplus and to sell to Warrenton School District. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
If we're selling it, must still be working. Why are we getting rid of it?
We have we have a list of all our buses in the sense of where they are in the process of where we usually, what I call age them out. Tony, what's the correct term for
We
it?
have fully depreciated.
Thank you,
Yes.
willfully depreciated, thank you. And while that doesn't disqualify them from being used again, we just have newer buses that can take that place.
Sounds good. All right, motion's been made and seconded to accept the to surplus bus 7020 and for the sale to Warrenton School District. Are there any other questions? There are none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chris is flagging as low bandwidth. We may have lost him.
Okay. Then all those opposed? Oh, there you are.
There we go.
There's Chris. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now to the end, board reflection. Do you have anything, wanna reflect on, announcements or anything like that?
All right, Lloyd, we thanked you at their own, so now here's where we can thank you.
I think, what, did he coach all 4 years for your volleyball, Michelle?
He was ball boy my freshman year.
Right. I think Jason taught me how.
But he started in middle school, so.
Yeah,
I've known him since 1976.
there you go. There we go. Is this now, are you fully retiring or is this a retire and then
I
get hired
plan
back?
to continue my career in the educational world.
Okay,
Yeah,
here at Seaside?
if the opportunity arises and I meet the standard, that would be fantastic.
You have to take a state test for that?
Well, congratulations on the first retirement.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's a
Thank
great
you.
thing.
I will remind any of our board members who have not yet filed with the government ethics,
Oh, yeah.
that today's the deadline. The SEI.
Yeah,
So if you haven't done that, you might want to go home tonight
You done?
and work on it.
Yes.
okay, cool.
I got the confirmation that it was
Yeah,
filed in.
yep.
The other thing I'd
I
like
was
to
in
add
person.
is that on April 23rd is our school board candidate forum. You've seen that messaged out, but we have had confirmation that everybody who's running will be there. And our PTOs are working with, on questions for that. We will also have student representatives, one from the middle school and one from the high school there to ask questions. Kristen Miles, who you are familiar with from OSBA, who's done trainings with us, will serve as the moderator. So, I'm excited to have that opportunity so that our voters can, learn more about the candidates.
Was that in here?
Yes.
In the
It'll be
library?
here.
And on Zoom too?
Yes, there'll be Zoom as well. It'll be.
I'll be there to answer all your questions, Sandra.
Oh, gosh, I have some more things to say.
And Michelle's up, I'm up, Chris.
Me?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys.
Well,
Well, I was
Kat-
just finishing a term, so then I actually need to go
Yeah,
through the process,
Yeah.
yeah.
so.
My heart hurts right now.
Just add more sparkles.
Yeah. I have a board reflection. So first of all, we have such an amazing school district. Everybody, the staff, the students, what an amazing board to serve on. I hope you're all running again. But I don't know. So when I went to the spaghetti feed, that was awesome. When I went to the family get together, that was amazing to see so many people there. And I love how we have so many opportunities for all of our different students, the different things they enjoy, whether it's, Key Club or, robotics, or just all the different, things that we try to provide for our students. And then I did have one question, because I love this wellness group and everything that it's doing. And I see like the wellness team, and the wellness team is organizing and putting all that together and also working the events for the wellness. What do we do for the wellness team that puts the wellness events together for everybody else?
Do we provide wellness for the wellness?
Yeah.
Well, they're all really dedicated people. Part of, when we transitioned from the grant funding to be able to build it into, our regular general funding, we continued to, with their stipends for that, because we know that, while they all have just a general love for wellness, they put in a lot of time. And so they are compensated. It's probably, they probably don't want to work out what that hourly rate would be because it's a lot of extra work. But we do provide, that compensation for them.
That's awesome.
And like I said, they're all just really dedicated to it as well.
And they're all awesome.
They are.
Yeah, it's a great thing. You do a good job.
All right. Is there anything else to come before the board tonight? If not, meeting adjourned. See y'all. Oh, who's gonna greet next time?
Not me.